In terms of the general outlook, let me try and first calm the nerves of those who are anticipating the worst for taxes in the media budget. Now, there was no new tax imposed. We have a few tax administrative measures here and there, but those are also in the grand scheme of things, not entirely new measures. They are just implementation initiatives. Now, going on to the outlook, I would agree with what the finance minister said, that I believe we are on track, if not to even exceed our target. Now, and that's strictly based on the numbers versus what we actually budgeted. Put that in perspective. If you look at what we made last year by this time, we had made about 30.1 billion in tax revenues. Fast forward to June this year, we've made about 48 billion. That in itself is almost about 60% growth, which is incredibly good. And then we have what we've budgeted to make this year, the revised budget of about 108 billion. Compared to what we've already made, that's about 44% targets achieved. So I think looking at it that the 108 billion is already a very ambitious target, I think we've done very well and the outlook looks very good. I'm trying to marry that as well with some of the expectations in the coming years, because from experience, you see that getting to December, there's what I call the December rush, where we have the authorities have a very big appetite for revenue collection initiatives. There's so much tax education, tax awareness, there's rise in tax audits. So trying to put all that together, I think we are likely to meet or even exceed our targets. Now, in terms of the areas that would say did very well, in terms of the winners and the losers, in terms of the tax areas, we see the corporate taxes did very well for obvious reasons. And then we also have taxes around self-employed taxes. And that one, it gives me a smile because we know that the authorities get a lot of grief for how much more they can get from that space. And this time they've done amazing. In terms of budgets versus actual, it was the topmost performer. So that's a good job there. In terms of where we didn't do so well, the transaction taxes didn't really do well. And then we also have the oil taxes, which I think was a mere estimation issue, because once the fundamental variables change in terms of commodity prices, exchange rates, obviously we throw off your budget. So I think the future looks good, at least in terms of the numbers for the 2023 budget. In terms of challenges, I would take it from two key angles, which is the pillars that our main budgets sit on and then expectation from the IMF. Two key things. We have the drive to aggressively mobilize tax revenues. That is one, which I have said that we are doing incredibly well, at least in the short term. And then we have the second being the structural reforms around tax policies and then administration. And I think that's where we need a bit of work, because we need that mindset shift. The era or regime of continuously imposing taxes is not sustainable. So we need to revisit that. That said as well, that also means that some of the sunset taxes we have, like the Growth and Sustainability Levy, and as well as what I call also a sunset tax like the COVID, because of its mere intention, the COVID levy. Those ones have to be allowed to die their natural death in the short to medium term. Beside that as well, I think what is key in terms of the policies is that there's a lot of talk around this. I know a lot of people have talked about it. I want to add my voice to it, that the VAT regime needs to be sanitized. We need to have one VAT rate that collapses the levies into one VAT consolidated rate, reduce it. And I think it will make the system cleaner and give some breathing space for taxpayers and probably lead to more revenue collection. Now, the other is to lift this argument on a more macroeconomic level, because sometimes it looks like the different policies have their own goals or working in silos. So we have the fiscal policies, where the tax policies comfortably sit. And then we have the others like the monetary, we have the industrialization drive, GDP target, unemployment or employment. How are they all harmonized? How are they coming together? Which common theme runs through? Are they all towards the same vision? And I think that is where I'm not seeing that kind of comprehensive picture or one big goal. For example, take a matter of what are our priority sectors? What are some of the tax policies we can bring to incentivize that sector, while at the same time looking at the already matured sectors that are not too much of a priority that we can milk a lot of taxes on? So these are areas we should talk about, or we should have conversations around. And at the end of the day, to look at policies that would give us very effective outcome and cushion us against the future shocks.